I guess the cat's in the bag.
Here I go, I'm about to freak the flow. About the Cartoon Network and things they show. We got the super adventures, tune heads, and late night. It's black and white, but everything's alright. But I'll break it down a little bit more. Tell you what they have in store, what his tunes you're looking for. We got Fred Flintstone and Bonnie Rubble, my man.
So I've mentioned this a few times before, but I really loved Disney Afternoon. Well, most of it. Don't think anyone is chomping at the bit for Schnookums and meat on Disney+. But I grew up on this stuff, both on ABC and Toon Disney. To this day, Darkwing Duck is still one of my favorite cartoons, and I think that most of them have aged pretty well. Nowadays, I think that most of the shows on Disney are good in spite of being Disney shows. But back then, I think they were good because they were Disney shows. And you gotta admit, it was a pretty clever business model, reusing previously established characters in new and exciting ways. That kind of thing died with stuff like Harvey Birdman and Space Ghost. Wow, I never really thought how much the Disney Afternoon and early Adult Swim had in common. But I'm always down to revisit these classics. DuckTales 2017 was an amazing love letter to the Disney Afternoon, and since then, people have been wondering if there are plans to reboot any more of the shows. Darkwing Duck, stop teasing me and give me Darkwing Duck. I wanna f***ing get dangerous. However, way back in 2014, news that a certain group of rodent rebels would be getting a new movie started to surface. Yep, Rescue Rangers was set to get its own movie, nearly 30 years later. But you know how these things go. Rumors get spread, hopes get high, a million fake fan posters start to get made. I didn't think much of it back then. But now, 8 years later, this thing actually came out, and it kind of split the internet. Rather than sticking to the show's roots of being a team of detectives adventuring, solving crimes, and inspiring cults, I never thought one cute mouse girl could cause so much damage. This movie would instead be a meta take on the show, reimagining Chip, Dale, and the rest of the gang as actors, living in a Roger Rabbit-esque world stuffed to the brim with references. On one hand, it was cool to see all these different characters interacting with each other, and on the other hand, part of it did look really cheap in the trailers. Plus, with stuff like Ready Player One and Space Jam 2, which I like, it seems like people are getting tired of these mega companies just flaunting how many IPs they own. But you guys know me, I'm always one to give stuff a fair shake. So I buckled down, opened my mind, and watched this new Rescue Rangers movie. So, does this movie never fail, or does it go slipping through the cracks? Let's find out. I'm your host, and forever 90s kid, D'Angelo Edwards, and today, I'm taking my hat off to Rescue Rangers 2022.
Hello, potential new friends! Goodbye, eclectic group of bus passengers.
Alright, so first things first, what's the basic story of this thing? Like I mentioned before, this movie takes place in a world very similar to Roger Rabbit's, with toons of all shapes and sizes coexisting with humans. And I mean all shapes and sizes. You got living houses, 2D characters, 3D characters, stop motion, you even have some characters that have made the jump from 2D to 3D like Dale.
Hey, it's no secret I had the CGI surgery done, and it's done wonders rejuvenating my career.
It's a pretty fleshed out, straight to the point kind of setting. Our story starts off with Dale getting used to being the new kid at school, but it doesn't work out so well for him. That is, until he meets Chip, and the two of them instantly connect, forming a strong comedy duo. The two decide to move down to California and make a name for themselves. And after suffering through some bit parts, the two of them eventually land their own show, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. And it's a huge hit. Again, it's no Darkwing Duck, but I'll shut up. The show seems to be going great, but one day Dale decides to try and get his own show made. And in the process, Rescue Rangers ends up getting cancelled, and the crew breaks up, with the split between Dale and Chip being especially nasty. Now, years later, the two of them are leading separate lives, with Chip moving on while Dale tries to cling on to the lingering fame he has left. But the two of them are brought back together when it turns out that Monty, one of their old teammates, is in trouble. Now, the two of them are on the hunt to save him, and this time, it's not part of a show. So already, there is a lot going on, so let's take it step by step. I'm gonna try and keep most of the big spoilers under wraps, but there are a few things and special appearances that I want to talk about. So it's time to talk about the stuff I enjoyed. First off, let's get the big thing out of the way. This might be kind of polarizing, but I think that this movie looks great. Not perfect, mind you, but really good. Having all of these different characters and styles on display is a real treat, and a lot of them look really good. You have cameos from characters from cartoons, movies, CGI remakes of movies. You get to see Baloo from Jungle Book, who, like Dale, has had the CGI surgery, which I kind of like as a plot point. Some characters just get updated to play new roles. It's kinda clever. And although it's a little on the nose, it's not a bad piece of commentary for actors. I know that the big takeaway a lot of people had for this is that some of the characters that are supposed to be 2D are instead 3D models with a toon shader thrown on them. And yeah, I was also a little disappointed that they wouldn't be fully animated in 2D. And is this the best looking effect? No, not really. But hear me out. There are some shots and settings where having a fully drawn character interacting with 3D characters would have been crazy expensive. And speaking budget-wise, I think that doing it this way was the right call. While the 2D effect is kind of lacking, I think that the point still comes across, and while yes, I would have preferred something different, I don't think they made the wrong call here. Just maybe work on that shader a bit. There are some characters that are animated in 2D, but they're mostly just like bit roles and cameos. A lot easier to do. Speaking of cameos, there are some great ones here. Not only Disney characters, but characters from basically everything are here. There was one cameo that made me lose my mind when I saw it because it was just so out of left field. But there is one cameo that stands out by far. And you might have already heard about it since it kind of got leaked on the internet early. That's right, folks. Ugly Sonic in all of his glory is here, and he is more spectacular than I could have ever imagined. It's just so nuts seeing him here because this is the closest thing we will ever get to seeing what the original Sonic movie would have looked like. And while the thought of a world in which this is the face that millions of kids would have been introduced to delights me to no end, man, I'm glad Tyson Hess took the reins. The thing that I like most about the cameos though, is outside of just seeing the characters, which is cool, they also use it to make animation jokes in general. They even end up in a part of town known as the Uncanny Valley, full of characters from that weird Beowulf era of mocap animation. The jokes they do here are amazing, I was dying.
Who are you?
Is he talking to us? I can't tell. He's got those Polar Express eyes.
I don't care how many magazines, YouTubers, and critics list The Polar Express as one of the top Christmas movies. That thing isn't a movie, it's a nightmare. And I have thought so from day one. And when it's not busy being scary, it's boring. Get that out of here, go watch Jingle All the Way, that'll put some hair in your chest. So yeah, I like how this thing looks, and I think that while limited, the animation shown here is pretty good. And even outside of the animation, the movie looks great. The sets, the lighting, I love it. I hope they do a limited theater release because I would love to see this on the big screen. So if you can get past the so-so toon shader, there is a lot to appreciate in this movie.
Cartoon Network.
All right, boys.
Cartoon Network.
1, a 2.
Here I go.
Before we get into all that, do me a favor. Take a look at this photo. It's a friend of mine named Monterey Jack.
Which is also the name of a cheese. Continue.
Alright, so visuals are great and all, but it's not going to be much of a movie without a good story and characters. So, how are they? Also, surprisingly good. I was a little worried when I saw that they weren't going with chipmunk voices for Chip and Dale, which you know is kind of their thing. And no offense to John Mulaney or Andy Samberg, I love them both. But, you know, nostalgia and all that. but the fact that they are just actors in this world kind of fixes that. The chipmunk voices are just them doing a role, so it makes sense that when the camera isn't rolling, they sound more normal. And I think Mulaney and Sandberg do a good job here. Mulaney makes a great straight man to Sandberg's more go-lucky attitude, and the two of them have great chemistry. After 30 minutes, I wasn't even thinking about the voices, I was fully invested in the characters. Seeing how mundane Chip's life had gotten and how desperate Dale was fun. It really helped sell that the two of them need each other to balance the other out. There's also Ellie, played by Kiki Lane, who also does good, playing a detective who helps the monks out, while trying to contain the fact that she is also a huge fan of them. I really like this character, but what I like even better is the way that they use her in this movie. In movies like this where the main draw is usually the more fantastical character, studios always try and shove a random human down our throats, while the only thing that we want to see is the cartoon. And Rescue Rangers is one of the first movies to actually learn from that, and use her as little as possible. She is a supporting character. We don't take an extra 20 minutes to discuss her love life or help her pass a driving test. We don't even see her house. And you know why? Because that would suck. And it wouldn't add anything besides more runtime. Less is more, and this movie nails that. By using her sparingly, she never becomes annoying, and screen time isn't being leached away from Chip and Dale, the real stars. I loved Sonic 2, but there was a lot that could have been trimmed out, don't lie. But by keeping it focused, the movie manages to feel pretty tight. I will say that maybe there's about 10 minutes that could have been cut to get this to a nice hour and a half, but at no point was I bored. Nothing really lingered for too long. It's funny because the more I think about this movie, this is probably the closest we've ever come to making another movie in the Roger Rabbit style. It's nowhere near as good as Roger Rabbit, mind you, but what is? But compared to stuff like Space Jam and Cool World, this movie is very competent, and frankly, I enjoyed it a lot. The cameos were fun, the story was engaging, and the characters were fleshed out. I could see this getting a sequel, to be honest, and if they make one, I would definitely check it out. Is it perfect? Of course not. It needs to tighten up a few corners and polish some of the animation, but what we got is no slouch either. I went into this thing expecting to feel kind of lukewarm on the whole experience, but I was pleasantly surprised. This was a competent, clever, and even kind of touching movie. There's a part where they play a slower version of the Rescue Rangers theme song, and I almost teared up, not gonna lie. I'm a sucker like that. Manipulate me, Daddy Disney, I'm easy. So is Rescue Rangers worth your time? I say yes, it is definitely a fun watch. Grab some friends, pour some cereal, and get ready for an awesome time. Because in a world where so many movies like this waste time getting it wrong, these two gumshoes are picking up the slack.